He's the champion of LA. Give it up for Mr. Billy Cavanagh.
Out. Feels really good to be out of the psych ward. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Shit, man. Every time I go to psych ward, I end up in a new relationship. No, it's good to be out. The pandemic was rough. I just got invited to my first dinner party, and my friend got married to another man, and he invited me over, and it was uncomfortable. It wasn't the fact that everybody there was gay and I was straight. It was the fucking furniture. Yeah, gay dudes will buy the most uncomfortable furniture in the world, and then they'll call that shit art. Nobody asks any questions. I realize they're trying to test you. They're trying to see if you're fuckable. If you sit down and you say anything other than this is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever sat on, it's open season for your asshole. I'm glad you guys laughed at that. I did that joke a few weeks ago at a show. It did not fucking go well. I walked out, somebody slashed my tires. They followed me home. I was getting hate mail for weeks. Jesus. Let me tell you, gay dudes send the most creative hate mail I've ever fucking seen in my life. It was better than any save the date I've ever gotten in the mail. It was like so perfectly worded. Had punctuation marks I didn't even know existed. I opened it up. I was like, is this a fucking glitter bomb? But I was scared. I was like, when are they going to come? When are the death threats going to come? And I walked out of my house one day and they confronted me. And I was like, look, I'm sorry if the joke offended you. And he goes, the joke didn't offend me. You just can't keep telling our secrets or it won't work.
I'm James Cameo. I interview stand-up comedians. I like to let them on our little platform here to discuss their biography for about 45 minutes to an hour or so. If you happen to be a stand-up and you're interested in getting on this show, go ahead and DM me, shoot a comment, whatever. Those of you that are new here, please like and subscribe if you like what you see. This particular guy has a crazy story. You're going to love it. You're going to want to root for him. And he's all over Los Angeles. He's got an Instagram page. He's got a YouTube. You can check him out in a number of different ways, and he's always out at the clubs and everything. Anyway, so please like, subscribe, and support this guy. He's got a crazy story. You're going to see it here. Everything he says is real. He's got mugshots to prove it. So we're going to get going right now.
Why else am I here, bro?
Well, the problem is that we're too white. If you were a black dude, we'd keep them in. If two white dudes, though, we're gonna get brought up on charges.
No, I identify as black, so it's all good.
No, your Irish ass is clear. You're not fucking identifying as black. You're black. If you're black, what the fuck am I?
Yeah, but dude, it's 2021. If that's what you want me to call you, I have to call you that, or else I'm a fucking bigot. Yeah. The bottom line is, like, I'm not there to hurt feelings. You know what I mean? I don't want to hurt feelings. I want people to have a good time and enjoy themselves. That's the point of comedy. Yeah.
Let's tell the people who you are.
So I'm Billy Cavanagh, live in Los Angeles.
And you are a stand-up comedian.
I am.
Well, and you're originally from New York, correct?
Yes, originally from Long Island. Yeah.
Which part of Long Island are we from? You don't sound like Action Bronson. That's kind of what I initially was thinking. I was like, oh man, I hope this dude's got like one of those accents.
I just look like him, right?
You do have a little bit of a vibe to you, although you're like the after weight loss Action Bronson. That dude was fat as fuck for a little while.
Yeah, fuck him. Yeah, he was fucking. It was insane, dude. He lost a lot of weight. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, fuck yeah. So what brought you out to California? I mean, did you come out here to do stand-up comedy or what?
So I actually moved out here to get sober.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I moved out here about 5.5 or 6 years ago. Came out here for rehab. Went to Orange County. I put a year together, and then I went back home, and I relapsed ultimately. But I came back out 4.5 years ago, and I just, stayed out here since.
Well, shit. What was your drug of choice?
Oh, God. What do you got?
Everything?
Yeah, I know this through Zoom, but what can you send over here with a fucking Postmate?
Wow, it's like that, huh?
Whatever I could get to make me not feel like myself is what I was going for.
Really? Wow.
I grew up interesting life, so yeah.
Well, can we talk about that a little bit? Because in your stand-up, it's funny. Some of your jokes that are clearly about how you grew up, First off, you made the mistake of telling some of those in Venice, which is land of extra woke white people who have zero sense of humor about suicide, racial humor, any of the above.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I the way that I grew up, it was just like I grew up in like a neighborhood in Long Island where like what we would do in my teenage years is we would just get fucked up and roast each other. Like that was the thing. And everybody was good at talking shit to each other. Some of the funniest kids I've ever met are out there, and just, of course they're not doing anything with their lives, but yeah, I mean, interesting story. I grew up, I got sober out here, and I thought you were busting out like a legit like TMZ camera. That's what.
No, man. No, this is just, you're the very first microphone, and I'm still working my shit out and kind of going like, all right, hopefully this sounds better.
Good. But yeah, I mean, I got sober and I was miserable, and I switched around from like Alcoholics Anonymous to Narcotics Anonymous to like all these different things, and like tried to grasp at like the straws of like anything that I can grasp at, Christianity, this, that. And I was miserable for a while. And when I had like a year and a half sober, somebody invited me to a show, and I went to my first show ever at the Ha Cafe in North Hollywood. And I loved it. I realized that somebody on stage could actually make me not think about my shitty life for a little while, and I could have a good time. And at that point, I still didn't know I wanted to do comedy, but I just loved it, and I had so much respect for it. So I would go to shows like 4 or 5 nights a week. People would comp me tickets. I would go to the Laugh Factory all the time. It's funny because I had somebody said to me, they're like, "Oh, you go to comedy shows 5 nights a week. You go to AA meetings like what, once a week?" You go to more comedy than AA. I'm like, yeah. They're like, "Oh, so your recovery is a joke?" I'm like, like real fucking funny, dude. And yeah, man, I fell in love with it. And then a few years later, somebody was like, all these people that host shows that give you comp tickets. You're funny. Why don't you start trying to do this? And I've always been a writer in some form. Like that's always been my thing, whether it was like stupid ass poetry or like song lyrics or shit like that. And I started writing, and then I went to an open mic one night with a friend, and I didn't really plan on going up. I was nervous, and I heard these dudes, and this was an open mic in like a bar, and everybody that got on stage seemed like these people that wanted to pursue comedy like 30 years ago, but let it slip away from them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just washed up drunks. And I was like, oh, fuck it. And I just got on stage and I let some shit rip. And it was my first time ever, and it was decent. I can't sit here and say it was good, but it was decent for a first time. And I kept writing. And then I went and I did a second open mic, and I froze. I was stressed out. I looked at my notes. I couldn't piece any words together, and I froze. And I literally said, fuck this. I put the mic down and I walked off stage. And I went to my car and I cried for like 25 minutes. And there was nobody in this mic other than the guy hosting it and my 2 friends that went with me. Everybody was gone by then. And I was like, I'll never do this shit again. And then I started to think about it. I was like, if I'm crying about this, it must mean something to me.
You give a fuck.
Yeah. And I didn't do it for a while. I didn't do it for about 2 years after that. And it wasn't even a mic. I was working the door during the pandemic at a show in Venice. And they were like, hey, why don't you go up and do like 5 minutes? They're like, we were expecting like 65 people. There's only 45 in the audience. Why don't you go up? I'm like, whether it's 65 or 45, I don't give a fuck at that point, because up until then, I couldn't even read my material to a friend of mine. Like I was so insecure about it. And I went up and it was good, for a first show. And then I just started going up every week there, and I fell in love with it. And now it's just like, I'm dying to get stage time, and I like going to open mics sometimes. Like it's more of a networking thing for me, but the mic scene in LA is very just like, while you're on stage, the people in the audience are other comics focused on their shit, or how did they do, or writing their own shit. It's very critical. It's very like, I don't want to say cutthroat, but like they're not there to enjoy comedy. You know what I mean? So like, You're not really getting laughs. If you can make a room full of comics laugh, then it's, you're doing pretty well.
Man, look, let me tell you. And like, look, I'm not giving you any advice. I don't care what you do, but don't give up your don't give a fuckness. I don't have a good way of putting that. But my problem with a lot of comedians nowadays is that like you watch them and you can see that they're kind of, a little skittish. And it's like, I feel like, you're making fun of everybody's race. Nobody's exempt. You're kind of equal opportunity.
I haven't gotten too racial with it.
You haven't? Are you sure?
Not really. Unless you got a prime example right here of something you've heard me say.
Well, here's where I'm at is that it's like when I'm especially on your podcast than your stand up. First off, just asking a crowd of people in Southern California, never mind Venice, land of like extra woke white people, if there's any racists in the crowd, like that to me was kind of like, that's where I laughed the most at you, and not one person in that crowd seemed like they enjoyed it. Like they are racially sensitive.
Yeah, that's just like I like to fuck with people, and it's like if you go any racist in the crowd, nobody's gonna cop to it. And then if somebody does, it's just like right there, it opens it up. I forgot what bit I got into after that, but it was something leading into race. But the thing that I learned is like you can joke around about anything you want as long as it's funny, because that's what the dividing line is. Because if it's not fucking funny, you're just being an asshole. And if you're being an asshole, people don't want to hear. They didn't come here to see you be an asshole. You know what I mean?
Well, that's you know what, to your point, that's what you do very well, is that you kind of make it so that it's funny enough, but it's still pretty edgy that it's like, all right, at least me anyway, I'm interested. Tell me some more. You know what I mean? And I went through all your comedy shit to kind of prepare us for like what we're going to talk about here. And I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? And like, you do some jokes about gay buttholes, which if you're hearing that out of context, doesn't make a ton of sense. It probably sounds terrible, but I'm sure gay dudes think that's hysterical.
They do. And that's the thing. And that joke progressed, and it started as something small, like, and you know what? Somebody pointed out, they were like, that sounds very like, they were like, we think you got the idea from Tim Dillon. And I didn't think about it at first because I don't listen to a lot of Tim Dillon stuff, but I think I heard him talking about the air. Do you know this thing about that he talked about? Something about like he went to an Airbnb that was run by two lesbians and their furniture, and like it was all fancy and shit. And I might have got the idea from there. And that's the thing that I realized too. It's like, it doesn't matter where you get the idea, as long as you're not like, don't rip off people's bits. But there's only so many premises there are in the world. There's going to be things that cross. And I've heard comics talk about that. But it progressed, and it was literally that turned into them trying to test you by having uncomfortable furniture to see, like, to gauge you. And then it turned into the punchline, which was really vulgar, which was like, it's open season for your asshole. And then I was like, it was decent at first. And then I was like, I need to put a spin on this to make it appealing to that demographic. And that was where it was like, oh, one of them confronted me. And it was like, no, the joke's good, but you can't tell our secrets or else it won't work anymore. And that's where people are like, okay, yeah, like gay dudes come up to me after the show. And I had to get the mushroom stamp of approval from some of my gay friends. But yeah, you can joke around about like whatever you want as long as you make it funny. You know what? I'm uploading something right now from last night, which is like me just, first time I really ever crowd work people. So like last night though, tell me about your show last night, because I know that, when we talked before, you were talking about Tom Arnold, you're talking about Jay Mohr, who are two people I know. Last night, the headliners were Tom Arnold and Jay Mohr, both monster comics.
For sure.
Fucking amazing, phenomenal, really nice guys too. And it's an honor for me being, 6.5, 7 months into this to get to like, it's not like I didn't open for them. Like Tom Arnold didn't come to me and say, hey, like, and he produces the show. I worked for him and I did security for him for months. And he wasn't even the first person to put me up. Somebody else put me up. Like I had to like really advocate to like get the spot on this show. And he finally gave me the spot, and it was cool. It's an experience.
Did you do well? Do you think you crushed it or what?
Oh, last night I think I did pretty well.
Yeah. Are we going to see that on your YouTube?
You will be able to in a few hours.
Okay. All right.
I just tweaked the sound on it. There's this guy that comes to the show, and he films it, and he's so on point. I'm talking about like within 12 hours, I got an email like, this is your set. I'm like, holy shit. Like he's the shit.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I wish I was that on point with producing these dumb things, but I mean, I at least have I at least have like a real job and stuff like that. So if I had all day to do this, this is all I would do all day long, which is why I keep doing it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that with like your stand up? Like you can just sit there and write jokes all day long when you're not working a real job, or what?
You know, my job is very like remote. Like I go into the office a few times a week, but a lot of it is networking and a lot of stuff from my phone and lunch meetings. And I write, something comes up in my mind, I put a note in my phone. And then sometimes I don't even touch that exact note for months. Like now I'm going into shit that I had an idea like 6 months ago, and I'm reworking it and I'm turning it into something else. So
tell me about this. Do you really have a tattoo of the Red Cross?
yeah, so I have a German Iron Cross tattooed on my leg.
Oh, that's
No. But yeah, we were joking around about it. I was like, yeah, I'm a huge advocate, like philanthropist, wanted to help the people in New Orleans after the floods. No, what he pointed out was I have a fucking German Iron Cross on my leg. And I was like, let me just play off this a little bit. And we were just like,
yeah, I missed part of it because I was kind of getting ready for this and testing my audio. And I was like, wait, did he really go to go to New Orleans and help refugees? Like Katrina refugees?
oh, fuck the refugees.
Oh, you know. So tell me about the. I also learned a fun fact. Tell me about the clover on your neck.
Okay, another interesting story. So I'm Irish, obviously.
Yeah, fuck yeah, you're Irish, Cavanagh.
And where I'm from on the East Coast, I got it because I'm Irish. But apparently, when I moved to California, I found out that it's like a thing in prison. If you're like a shot caller, Aryan Brotherhood, or like killed somebody, the clover is like a thing, which is like, I'm so glad I don't get high or like drink or like do anything anymore. Because if I go to prison with this, apparently they're either going to make you like prove that you earned it, or they're going to like cut it off of you or burn it off of you. So I'm like, yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, that might give you some trouble. And I guess that wasn't one of those well thought out tattoos. Like, all right, what is this bad idea right now going to get me in my future?
Well, I'm very, very like proud of my heritage, you know, and it's like one of those things. But
wait, you're proud of being white? You pointed out that's racist.
Heritage, not race. There's a difference.
No, well, you better tell me the difference because I don't know the difference.
I'm Irish. It's my heritage. It's the culture, you know. Yeah, apparently being proud of your heritage is not allowed if you're anything other than a minority. But
it's frowned upon. I don't know if it's not allowed.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I got it because I'm Irish. You know, I got a bunch of Irish shit tattooed all over my body. But yeah.
And so, like growing up, you know, and I really feel like this is part of the reason why you're funny. You had a tough childhood. You tell some jokes about that, about the old man. What was your dad like? What was childhood like for you?
So my dad wasn't that bad. Neither of my parents were that bad. They were both heroin addicts. And I was in and out of foster homes for like 9 years between when I was born till I was like 12. Like 9 of those years I wasn't with my parents. And yeah, I mean, they weren't that bad, to be honest. They did what they could. And I've learned to accept that because I later on started shooting heroin like an asshole.
Well, that's not like an asshole, kind of, you know. I mean, like that's what you do to kind of, you know, escape reality when you got that type of childhood, right?
Yeah, you know, foster care in and out from when I was born till I was 12, and then started like using drugs heavily. And then by the time I was 16 to 22, it was just in and out of jails and rehabs. And then, yeah, I fucking got out of New York, and it was the smartest thing I could have done with my life, you know, or else I would have been dead.
Wow. That's pretty heavy shit. I didn't expect us to get there today, Billy.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we could talk more about that another time too. Like,
well, look, this is the interesting shit to me. Like, you know, just chopping it up and kind of laughing. That's funny, but it's like, I feel like this is what's going to make people like you and make you vulnerable enough that people are going to connect.
Yeah. And I'm extremely open about it. Like I'm open about it. I know that this is the kind of shit that there's somebody sitting in their house somewhere and they hear this and it gives them some kind of hope. Maybe not in this like comedy context, but when people hear that somebody grew up the way that I did and they were able to get out of it and actually have a productive life, you know, that's the shit that I still hear. And I met with a friend today who's just like killing it. And like, at 18 or 19, he was in prison, like looking at a lot of prison time. And now he like owns multiple businesses and he's doing his shit. And it's like that shit gives me hope I could get there. And my shit could give somebody else hope that they could get to where I am.
Look at you. You're very enlightened. Don't you know what I mean? Like you don't get that when you're just watching the jokes. You know, you don't get how well thought out and deep you are. And I mean that in the most endearing way possible. I don't mean that to be a smartass.
Yeah, don't tell the gay dudes I'm deep.
No, these gay dudes, once they find, look, do you have a garden?
No, thank God.
See, there you go. Once they find out you don't know the difference between perennials, annuals, they start quizzing you about what flowers you like.
Oh, shit.
Then they'll know.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
It is a wrap. Yeah. So now you're doing comedy, and you're also talking about how white people bug you. Specifically, specifically white people with dogs.
Yeah, you know, that's fucking, it's ridiculous, like that people out here, how they treat their pets. It blows my fucking mind.
And that they treat them too well, not like they beat the shit out of them and like, you know.
I got a dog. I have 2 dogs, but when I got my first one, they were like, yeah, you got to get a license for it. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, or like take it to the vet and like shit like that. It's like, dude, I had dogs my whole childhood. And it's like, not once did I ever take that shit to get a license for it or take it to the vet. Like, I remember when my dog, like my parents always wanted to find like my dad specifically would always find like the solution to them. He was actually brilliant, to be honest. But I remember like my dog was like about to die and like we knew it had to put down. The vet was like, yeah, it's like $500 to put the dog down. And my dad was like, yeah, let's just give him a fatal shot of heroin. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like 11 years old. I was like, what's heroin? He was like, oh, don't worry, you'll find out in 3 years. He was fucking that shit.
Sounds like the old man was probably pretty funny. I feel like you're probably in a weird way carrying on his legacy.
Believe it or not, my humor's from my mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom was fucking hysterical. I used to get high with my parents too, but my mom was a trip, and she passed away about 2.5 months ago, and I went to her funeral, and the 2 things that everybody that spoke at her funeral said that was in common was she was extremely compassionate, she liked to help people, and she was hilarious. And that was like the 2 qualities that I got from her that I'm like so grateful for. Like, she's seen my comedy online a few times. I used to send it to her on a Facebook Messenger, and she'd be like, I don't know how to open it. Like, she couldn't open the link, and she'd like, just click on it.
Yeah.
But when she finally saw it, she was like, it was great. And she was supposed to move out here, and like 5 days before she was supposed to move here, she passed away. And she didn't get to see me perform live, but she used to tell me all the time she loved it. She was proud. That and the being sober and like moving out here and getting the fuck out of, you know.
Yeah, she's got to be proud. You're doing what she couldn't. You're getting out of Dodge and you're getting sober. You're not.
Yeah, she was sober too. You know, it's weird. She got sober too. We got sober together, and yeah, it was cool. I got sober at like 22 or 23 at the same time as my mom because we got arrested together. And
that's some bonding shit. You got to tell me about this. Who gets arrested with their fucking mom?
Yeah, so me and my mother got arrested for selling heroin to an undercover DEA agent. And
Billy, you're sloppy, Billy. What are you doing?
No, man, I was fucking, yeah, dude. Got to finesse that shit. But no,
yeah, come on,
I got really wrapped up in my addiction towards the end. It was horrible, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And everybody's like, you gotta talk about that on stage, like it's funny and that. And I'm like, I haven't found it yet, but I'm sure I will. And
man, listen, Billy, first off, the story itself is interesting. So even if you got up there and you're like, hey, I got arrested with my mom, like that would make me fucking laugh. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even punchline. Like half the crowd will be like, what?
Yeah, I'm working on it. It's like, yeah, if I tell that story and then I just say some shit like, yeah, working for family, right, guys? It's rough. And it's just like, but yeah, we both got sober together. And it's like at 24, I kicked off, like I built a relationship with my mom in the last 4 years that I didn't have for 24 years of my life. And it was cool. It was a beautiful thing. That like we got to know each other on a whole nother level. It was interesting.
Yeah, so I feel like, because you do talk about and make funny uncomfortable subjects, suicide, You you wanted to have what was it again? A suicide awareness month for fucking assholes that
no, I think
get rid of.
Yeah, I want them to change September from suicide prevention to suicide promotion. Because here's the thing about that. If you think about it, like even the people that get pissed off at that joke when they hear it, it's like, okay, why are you pissed off? Somebody you loved killed themselves. Okay. Now, wouldn't you rather it was some real piece of shit instead of your loved one? Like everybody can relate to that somehow.
Now, do people really come up to you after your show and kind of say, hey, look, that hit too close to home?
No, I haven't had that yet.
Okay.
I haven't really had, I had a super liberal, like 20 something, year old white woman in the audience at an open mic. And she wasn't even there for the mic. She was picking up food from the restaurant where the mic was hosted. And she was just horrified. And all I could hear was every time I said, like, I threw out a premise for a joke and started it, I just heard her in the back of the room, like, what? Like, horrified. And yeah.
Are those
the first time that ever happened to me? And it threw me off to the point where I was like, do I really want to do comedy? And then, yeah, I went to my friend. I was like, I bombed. It's an open mic. And I'm thinking, I bombed. He's like, you didn't bomb. He was like, I got stabbed once coming off the stage. That's a bomb. And I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe that's a bomb. But
that's real talk. Somebody got stabbed after material on a stage?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were just talking about, this chick, I mean, how often do you get a crowd of those chicks that are, and I know who these people are. I don't know this girl in particular, but it's like they're all uber white liberal people that actually have white privilege because they grew up with a whole shitload of privilege.
Yeah.
So they still feel guilty about their whiteness. I don't have that guilt. And it doesn't seem like you have that guilt at all.
No, and is to put a spin on something to make it funny, especially something that normally isn't funny or shouldn't be joked around about. Like, that's a comic's job, is to make that somewhat funny.
Billy, you just reminded me when you're joking about long hair knuckle Armenian people. Billy, come on, Billy. That's fucking funny. First off, if I was Armenian, I think I'd be angry, but I'm like, that's pretty fucking funny, Billy.
Do you know who hates Armenians more than anybody in the fucking world?
I'm listening. You
other Armenians.
Arbajanias. What's that country that keeps fucking with them? Azerbaijanis.
Yeah, isn't that the prison where Harry Potter was locked up in the third book?
They start talking about these countries, and I'm so American. I'm like, all right, I kind of know Armenia a little bit. I don't know Azerbaijan. I don't know who's invading who, but I know they're protesting on like Sunset about it.
I didn't even fucking know what Armenia was before I moved to LA. Never heard of an Armenian, never knew what they were. Like, I was like, what the fuck? And I have friends, I have like a friend that's Armenian, which I hate saying because that's like somebody who goes like, I have a black friend. And I feel like having one black friend is more racist.
It does not give you license to make.
Yeah, it's more racist than having no black friends. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like trying to pull that card out. And you're like, no, like, that shit don't work.
Well, once you get, the thing is, Billy, is like, if you ever, if this comedy thing doesn't take off, which it will fucking take off, trust me, you keep at it, this shit's fucking funny. What the fuck's a Patreon? Tell me a Patreon. What is that?
Patreon's what a lot of people are releasing podcasts on that are not able to go on YouTube, Spotify, Apple.
Yeah. Listen, Billy, I'm excited. I got this mic to plug in and you can actually hear me. Like, I'm fucking behind.
You see the last episode of the podcast I did with my boy?
Wait, is that the one? I think that might have been, I think so. I don't know. I got into a Billy Cavanaugh rabbit hole on YouTube, which I don't even know if you know, but you can do that. And like, yeah, your podcast popped up and I don't know which ones I watched. I think I watched the most recent.
We had one where we had a third guest on, Francisco Ramos.
Oh, no, I didn't see that one. It actually was popped up in the little rabbit hole. And I was like, all right, let me click on this later. And then I ran out of time.
We did that with 2 mics. And 3 people. So like me and the one who were like kind of like fighting over the mic. But you know what? In that episode, I was pretty much silent just because I was so tuned in to this dude's wisdom and like information about the comedy scene that I was perfectly fine just sitting there listening. Like it was interesting. It was a good episode.
Wow. Give me some wisdom about the comedy scene. So you're 6 months in, but what's nice is I feel like you're at the very beginning of like an upward trajectory. So like, what's the first 6 months?
Episode airs.
What's that?
So this episode airs, that fucking upward trajectory's gone once you post this.
Well, we can edit some bullshit, but I don't want to edit out any of that stuff. Like whoever doesn't like it, give me. Listen, Billy, let me tell you one of my goals. I have a couple of goals. One of them is to get to 1,000 subscribers, which I'm at like fucking 26. So I got a while to go. My other goal is to get a thumbs down because somebody fucking hates something I said. And like, at least in my mind, I'm on somebody's radar enough that they put the energy in to be like, fuck you, I don't like this.
Yeah. Hey, all publicity's good, I guess.
Hey, look at you. See, I feel like you got some showbiz. That's LA. That's that LA rubbing off on you. Never mind this New York shit.
Nah, you know what? I think that comics from the East Coast tend to, in my opinion, tend to do better in areas out here because they're going to say the shit that nobody wants to say.
Sure.
That's the thing about comedy. It's like you want to say the shit that everybody's thinking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it makes sense in their mind when they hear it. They just won't say it out loud, you know? And it's like that's what separates a comic from somebody who's sitting in the audience. You know?
Hey, so when we spoke, you just reminded me of something. When we spoke, you knew about Landover. That was like the first thing you said to me. Oh, you're from Maryland? Landover? How do you know about Landover? What do you know about Landover? Because I literally grew up like right next door.
Okay, so do you know FedEx Field?
Do I know FedEx Field? Of course. It's racist now. You can't fucking do that either.
So there is an apartment complex right behind FedEx Field.
Oh, you're hood as fuck.
Yeah. So I used to stay in this apartment complex when I would go to Landover. It was
You even say live like a black dude. Like, you know how black dudes stay places, they don't live places? You stay like that.
So I used to stay there, and yeah, now I'm gonna say finna.
That would be fucking great. Look, hey, look, let's exchange numbers. I want you to put my name in your phone and put that I'm a black guy and pick up the phone like that all the time.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, do that. And make sure you but overdo it and like call me a jive turkey and stuff. That would entertain me.
What's up, you jive ass motherfucker?
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
No, but yeah, so
Landover.
I used to go to Landover, kind of like, I don't even want to call it a vacation. It was like when I wanted to get out of New York, and one of my parents' friends was dating.
I'm sorry, I got to stop you for a second. You went to Landover as a way to get away from fucked up shit?
Well, yeah, because it was just like to get out of New York. I've always been somebody that likes to like see new places. So one of my parents' friends who was like this like big fucking like drug dealer, I used to go with him, and his girlfriend lived in that apartment complex. Oh and I used to just go down there and like I'd get loaded down there, and they'd be like, hey, if you're gonna get high, don't get high outside of the apartment. For a few days, I didn't know why. So apparently that apartment complex is owned by the government, and everybody that lives there is a government employee. So this guy's girlfriend worked for the IRS, but like the neighbors were like DEA agents, and like the guy downstairs was like a fucking FBI interrogator. So it was like, they were like, hey, if you're going to get high, stay in the apartment. So that was the only experience I had with Maryland. Same thing. I used to go down.
So the only experience you had in Maryland was a shitty apartment building in Landover.
No, it was a really nice apartment complex. It was like these really
Landover?
Nice, yeah. It was literally attached to the parking lot of FedEx Field.
Have you been to FedEx Field?
I've been outside FedEx Field.
Man, it's not the nice. I had a buddy that got hit by a street sweeper at FedEx Field.
Damn.
He tried to sue and didn't win. The judge was pretty much like, no, that's your fucking fault, dude. You pass out and you don't wake up when the street sweeper's loud ass is coming down the road. Like, that's your fucking fault.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? If you drive a Tesla, can you drink and drive? Technically?
I mean, I can't imagine they've made that legal yet. I think you still got to ride the train for that.
Yeah, sure. I was talking, it's funny. I started writing a bit this morning. I was having a work meeting, and I started writing a bit from the work meeting. This dude's talking about how he's about to get this new Tesla. And apparently the new Teslas are going to have this feature where, do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
You know how when you get in your car and you go to drive somewhere or you go to walk somewhere and it like gives you a suggestion based on your history of where you've been?
Man, I don't like that shit. That's so fucking creepy.
So the new Teslas are going to have that feature where you get in your car. First off, they're going to be self-driving. You're going to get in your car, and based on your history, it's going to drive you to where you're
going to go to the apartment complex where you.
Yeah. But I was thinking, I was like, dude, can you imagine you're hanging out with your friend and you're like, hey, we're going to go get some coffee, and you get in the driver's seat and he gets in the passenger seat, and that shit takes you to like Slammers nightclub in fucking West Hollywood. And you got to explain to your friend's like, Elon Musk knows you're gay.
I feel like you could work that joke out, especially if you were like on a date. It's like, oh fuck, it took me to Slammers.
Yeah, you know how many
really a place called Slammers in West Hollywood?
No.
No.
No, but there should be. There's a few places that I drive by and I see like, and I'm like, that place should be named Slammers.
There was I used to live in a very gay part of DC called DuPont Circle before I got to LA. It's like the home I had right before I got to LA. This is a few years ago, so I don't even know if it's the gay part of DC anymore.
Dude, DuPont Circle is actually what I named my asshole. That's great.
Wow, you would be a hit at the club, which is called.
I would be getting hit. There's a difference.
Yeah, you listen, Billy. Your whole vibe, if you were gay, and just says you're a top, you're not going to get it.
You know what, dude? It's so funny. So I didn't know what power bottom meant. So I have a friend that's gay, and like we always joke around with people and make them uncomfortable. So I had no clue what power bottom means. So every time we meet new people and we're hanging out, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm the power bottom," because I'm thinking the power bottom is like the rock, like the solid, like the man of the relationship. So I'm telling people I'm the power bottom for like 6 months, joking around, not knowing that power bottom means that I'm just fucking taking it, dude. And
wow, I'm glad you cleared that up for me because I didn't fucking know that. I've heard the term, but I've never
really know that. And he knew that the whole time, and he just didn't decide to tell me until 6 months into me telling people I'm fucking a career power bottom.
So your problem isn't being gay. You didn't want to be a power bottom gay. You wanted to be like, no, fuck that. I'm the masculine gay.
You know what, dude? Fucking East Coast gay compared to West Coast gay is so different. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this because I'm sure it's the same. Like, okay, you're from Maryland. Look at The Wire. You've watched The Wire?
Sure. Of course.
Who's the gay dude in The Wire?
Fucking Omar.
Yeah, dude. Nobody fucks with Omar. You know what I mean? Like, Omar will fucking kill you.
But Omar will kill you. But he had that little Latino boyfriend that was like, it's like, Omar, you're not gay if you're dating that dude because he's so, not gay looking. I mean, like, he's pretty. He's a pretty man.
That was a woman.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's basically a fucking woman.
Yeah, pretty much.
Listen, speaking of all this homosexual sex, tell me about jail. I've never been to jail. I've barely been arrested.
I've been to jail a few times.
Apparently
it's not like what you see in the movies. That's
where I'm at. I've watched Lock Up Raw enough that I think I know what I would do when I get there.
Yeah, apparently there's not a lot of sex. I was really disappointed, honestly, when I showed up and found out. But it's not like what you see on TV. I'm sure in like state prison it's like that. But from what I've heard from people that go to prison, it's more willing. You know what I mean? It's not like rape. It's consensual sex. But I think legally it's still rape because inmates cannot consent legally to sex because they're not their own human being. They're like owned by the state or some shit. Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing, Billy. I'm not a lawyer. I have studied zero law in my day.
I don't know, man. You look like a lawyer. You know what? You actually look like a fucking a highway patrol cop. That's what
I look like, a highway patrol cop. Oh, you know what? I do. Look, here's the thing. I got the high and tight. I got to fucking stay clean. I got a fucking big jawbone that just says like everything about me says like, this is an angry white dude that just wants to get back at the world. So he became a highway cop so he could have a job with a gun on his belt.
Yeah, for real. A fucking radar gun.
A radar gun.
A radar gun.
Like all I want to do is beat the shit out of people because I got beat up like on the playground.
You look like if you don't meet your ticket quota for the day, not even the one the fucking police force like puts out there, like your own personal quota, because you're so committed to the job. If you don't meet your own personal quota, you go home and you like beat the shit out of your wife.
Billy, that's what we do as drunk Northeasterners. Like we get grumpy and fucking beat up our wives. Listen, I used to live in Boston. I never knew like that was like really a thing until I went to Boston and I actually heard this kid named because there's like probably 50 billion of them just in South Boston. And he told me, he's like, you do it, you get all fucked up and you beat the shit out of your wife. And I was like, why do you do that? He's like, it's called being a drunk Irishman. And I'm like, wait, that's like a thing?
No, it's normal apparently. Dude, honestly, I only went into Manhattan like maybe 10, 15 times in my whole life.
God damn, you did have a fucked up childhood.
Yeah, dude.
Nobody took you
anywhere. I went to the city on St. Patrick's Day and I'd get on the train. I like 14 years old. And I get on the Long Island Railroad and it was a 45-minute ride. As soon as I get on and sit down, the train would take off. I'd eat like 7 Xanax bars and then drink
7 Xanax bars?
Yeah,
How
by
the
the
fuck you
time,
make it on the train?
oh, I don't even know how I made it off the train, man. And then I would like go into the city and stumble around the city all day and then just like come back. I remember one time I went to the city and I went to a pet store and I bought like a few of those like feeder mice that people feed to their snakes, like the live ones. And I was so fucked up that I bought like 5 of them and I started going around to different like restaurants in Manhattan and like letting them out of the fucking box just to fuck with people.
That's got to go into one of your sets.
Yeah, you know what? This shit's jogging a bunch of memories that I didn't even know I had.
Oh man, is that? Am I like Barbara Walters? Like if I fucking make you cry, like I've won.
You have, dude. Even my therapist can't make me cry.
Man, I'm fucking flattered. God damn it.
Probably tomorrow. Yeah, dude, you're bringing up shit that I didn't even know was in there. Like,
well, you know what? You bring it up on stage. That's whenever I see a stand-up comedian, what I'm interested in is like what makes that fucking person funny. Because I don't feel like you have to have anger or like a chip on your shoulder. I'm not like one because there's people that do it that have had great childhoods and stuff. But to me, maybe it's just the people I connect with are the ones that tell the truth. And it's like, hey, life wasn't perfect for me, and here's why I'm funny. You know what I mean? Like I kind of feel like I get that vibe from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I don't think that everybody has to have trauma. I think that my sense of humor has always somewhat been there as like some kind of escape. And I was talking about this the other day. Comedy has changed. The way that it was back in the day in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s was you would have these comics that were just fucking tortured souls. And they would just get high and drink and they would kill on stage. And the like the bookers and the clubs would keep them pumped full of drugs just to keep them performing. And it's not like that anymore. You know what I mean? It's an actual business now. There's so many fucking comics where they're like, oh, if you can't hold your shit together, it's like, bye, we'll get somebody else to come in. And I think that like, I've always had my humor, but I think getting sober gave me like the capability of like channeling that into something. Like if I was getting loaded, I would never be able to do this.
Well, I mean, it does. Here's the thing is like whether you're in a rock group or you're even a podcaster or a comedian, it's a very entrepreneurial thing to get up, do this shit, try and do it for a living and like kind of be successful at it. Like you got to be a little bit of a self-starter. If you're all fucked up all the time, I mean, how do you even get out of bed?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and I don't think the one thing that I think separates comedy from a lot of other shit like actors and musicians is like you're signed to a label. And like they kind of can censor what you can and can't say. Like they have feedback. And with a comic, it's like the only thing that can really censor you as a comic is like a club saying like, oh, you can't make, because different comedy clubs do have different standards. Like there are certain places in LA where they're like, you don't joke around about certain shit, as opposed to like the Comedy Store. It's like, say whatever you want, just make it funny.
Wow.
So it's like, if a place is like, oh, you can't say shit, it's like, cool, fuck you. Like, I'll go somewhere else and do this because this is my bit and this is funny.
What's the off limit shit that they typically frown upon?
I don't know, but I do know that I auditioned somewhere. And it's like, it's an open mic, but an audition. So you do an open mic spot. It's 2 minutes and you give it your all. And the booker for the club is sitting in the back of the room. And there's 2 clubs specifically in LA that when you audition, they want you to audition clean.
Oh,
and I didn't know that. So I went in there. Yeah, I went in there and you know what?
Clean?
I can't, you know what? I've actually been trying to challenge myself to try to put something together clean.
But it's so not, I feel like if we were like friends in real life, like, I feel like this is how we would talk. Like, it wouldn't be like, I don't know, what do clean comics say? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that's so natural to who you are. Like, how do you clean that up?
I respect clean comedy more. It's more difficult, I think. But I also think that like being dirty as a comic you don't have to be like that. Like if I take one of my bits and I can cut out all the curses and it's still funny and still gives off the same vibe, like there's no reason to really curse in a bit unless like it's important, you know what I mean? Unless it really makes the difference. But I mean, I'm so new to this, man. I'm still experimenting. I'm still trying to find like,
yeah, but you're talking to me. I've never been on stage. So maybe one day you'll motivate me.
Yeah. You want to do it, dude? Come to an open mic. We'll get you on stage.
Man, don't tempt me. You know what? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. You know what? I do find myself going back and forth with, but what I really fucking like is like, you know, the response from an audience would be cool, but like, I just like getting to know people. That's kind of why I came and was like, how do I, so the way this whole thing came about was like pandemic time. Like I didn't have a job for the first time in my adult life. And I was like, fuck, I've always wanted to just talk shit with people. Like, you know, pick whatever radio, you know, Howard Stern, Don and Mike down in DC, like folks like that. I'm like, man, maybe I could do that, you know, but I never really had the urge to get up and tell jokes up until recently. Part of the reason why I go to comedians is because y'all talk shit. You guys will get up here and like say what's on your mind. Civilians won't.
Dude, I suggest you do it. You know, like in that 2.5 year period where I was too afraid to get on stage, I was still going to a lot of shows and like watching. And I got to the point where I couldn't even go to a comedy show and enjoy it without getting like really bitter and resentful and like mad at myself. Because I was like, these fucking people are doing it and I'm being a pussy and I won't do it. And I remember I took my friend to a show and one of her favorite comics is Andrew Santino. And Santino came walking out of the comedy club and she's very like introverted. And I was like, yo, she's like a big fan. Could we get a picture? Got a picture from him. And then she threw me on the spot and was like, hey, he wants to do stand up, but he's too scared. Any advice? And he was like, you just got to get up and do it. That's the only way. And that's what I realized. That's the only way to do it. And it's funny because I've run into Andrew Santino on like 4 separate occasions, like twice at comedy clubs, like once at LAX and once somewhere else. And I'm always like, oh, what's up, man? Like, and he's super polite and cool. He's fucking hilarious if you haven't seen his stuff. But then the time finally came where I was at a show and I was outside after, and my favorite comic was there and he was talking to Andrew Santino. And my friend was like, go ask for a picture and introduce yourself to your favorite comic. And I was like, yeah, but like, if I do that, and then Santino's like, this fucking kid's everywhere. Like, is he following me? I'm like, I felt so awkward going up, but I did. And he was super polite and shit. And it's cool because I like that because you never know. Like one day I might end up on a podcast with one of these dudes, or I'm going to end up on a show with one of these guys.
Sure.
And I'm like, and you're the one that made the difference of why I'm doing this.
Look, LA is a small town. Like the more real, it's like, it's funny. It's like when you're in New York, when you're in DC on the East Coast, you kind of come out here and you're like, oh, I'll probably see like a celebrity here and there. And then like you kind of go out and you're like, oh shit. Like if I don't know a celebrity, which I don't know any celebrities really, but I know people that know celebrities, that's for sure. So it's like, yeah, all that stuff is like a reality once you get out here. Yeah. And it's like, but the thing is like, when I first moved here, I thought it was like this big deal. Like, I remember the first time I ever got like starstruck by somebody. Who was it?
It was Pauly Shore.
Mountain, bro. We figure we's a little Jew.
Starstruck, huh?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking now. I was at the Comedy Store and they used to have an AA meeting there. And I stepped outside to smoke and he was across the parking lot, like bossing around like these fucking Mexican like workers to like they were like repairing the belly room. And I saw him, he saw me, we locked eyes and I didn't know what to do. So I kind of just looked at him and I went like, and he looked at me like, is this kid fucking retarded? Like, and I was so starstruck. And then I started to realize like, people are people, you know what I mean? Like just even last night, I was sitting in the fucking green room at this show and I was having a conversation with Tom Arnold and Jay Mohr. Like literally just sitting on a couch talking. And like, yeah, I had questions that like, a person who isn't famous would ask. Like, I was like, oh, what movie did you have like the most fun working on and shit like that? You know, shit that like they don't get from other actors, but still like, if you don't overstep your bounds, be nice. And like, people are people. And like comics are usually the nicest people in the world. Like there's the exceptions of people who are just like complete dickheads. And I've run into a few of them on multiple occasions. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to name names on that one, but I've definitely had
I was hoping I could get it from you.
No, but also sometimes first encounters, that person might have had a bad day. They might have had a bad set. They might be freaking out about the set they're going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can never really go on like a first time impression, but there's been a few people that I've run into on like 5-6 different occasions and they're just a dick every time.
Are these famous comedians? Like we would know their names?
Extremely well known.
Wow. What's Tom Arnold like? Is he a fucking wackadoodle or what? He seems like an extremely nice guy with great stories, but just a little bit of like a wackadoodle.
Not really nice guy.
Yeah.
Just a really, really just all around nice guy. Same thing. Jay Mohr is one of the like nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Wow. And so the set went well. I mean, are you going to be able to get some more shows out of this? How's this work? How do we get more stage appearances from Billy?
Well, so I just got booked on a show in Long Beach, which I'll be doing at the end of the month. I've only performed in an actual comedy club one time, which was cool. And I ate shit. I built up this expectation because not only was it my first time in a club, I built this expectation that it was the first club that I ever went to my first show at. So I was like, this is just so perfect. And like, I put too much pressure on it. And I didn't like bomb, but I didn't do that well. Like some of my jokes killed, like I finished strong, but I didn't do fantastic. Like I didn't do the best that I've done.
Wow. That's the biggest fear, right? Like you kind of do it and you're just sort of like, okay.
Yeah.
So does that make you, so you mentioned bombing and you learned the most from bombing.
I haven't had a legit, so it's weird because if I look back, like I usually feel like I internally bomb because I'm a very like validation seeking person, which
yeah,
I feel like
we all are, right?
I feel like comics specifically, it's the most validation seeking job that you're ever going to have. You're like, here, this is what I think. Do you think it's funny? You know, as opposed to, and some people are better at just not giving a fuck. But yeah, like I always feel like I internally, there's been times where like I get nothing but laughs and then I walk off and I'm feeling like shit. And somebody's like, dude, you got nothing but laughs. That's why I record everything I do and I listen back to it. And then I'm like, oh, but yeah, I mean, it's, I used to black out on stage. Like my first few times going on stage, I used to have like my almost scripted of what I know my jokes are. I would run through them. Anything would throw me off. I'm talking about like if a car alarm went off, it would throw me off my game. If somebody reacted with anything other than a laugh, it would throw me off. Even if they were laughing, I would go into my next joke and step on their laughs, which I've had to learn to not do. And I wouldn't remember what happened. I'd go up there, I'd go on like autopilot, and then I'd listen back to it after on the ride home. And then I started to get a little better. And then I stopped using, like I recently stopped using, not like a notes, but almost like the way a musician has like a set list of like this song, this song, this song. I'd have my joke topics written out so I would know. And I stopped doing that about 2 weeks ago. And then like last night I just went completely, like I started off the way I wanted to, and I had like some of my jokes, and then I just completely diverted from it and started throwing in old shit that I wrote and like just new shit that I came up with the day before. And just first time I ever really like crowd work somebody. And it went really well, but it's trial and error. You're going to do great sometimes, you're going to do horrible, but you still learn.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, I'm still on notes. I just chopped down like a bunch of topics just in case, like, you know, there's dead air and shit. Like, but there's also a bunch of things I want to talk to you about. Like, what's dating like when you're a comedian? Do chicks just expect you to be super funny when you like meet them out or whatever?
You know what? It's weird because at least from like we were talking about before, not every comedian has like trauma and is like fucked up, but like I'm pretty fucked up. Like
you got some shit.
I do, and I'm working towards getting better with it. And I'm like, I know the importance of therapy. Dating is weird in general. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's hard for me to date because I was like, I would almost like kind of like start to diagnose people, like this, yeah, shit like that. But the person I'm seeing right now is really she's amazing. She knows that I do comedy. She's, you know, really supportive, understands that I will make jokes about things that may be from our relationship, that may be about her. There's certain lines that you don't cross when it comes to that, but she understands that like a lot of it is like for the art of the joke. So yeah.
Yeah, see, that's a tough balancing act because even when I do this bullshit, it's like, what can I actually disclose and what can't I? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's because you also don't know what's going to happen until like she actually hears it and she's like, oh, that's too far.
Yeah, you know what? I was joking around with another comic about this the other day, and I was like, oh, you could always just say the joke about your current girlfriend as your ex. And then I was like, and then if she still doesn't agree with it, the joke's true because now she's your fucking ex because she's gone. But yeah, man. I mean, like, it's the same thing with like performing in front of people. I don't want to hurt anybody's fucking feelings. There are people that are going to get their feelings hurt, but I also like, I know that early on dating, like I'm not going to be with somebody who's super fucking sensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's
I mean,
not,
even if you're not a comedian, that's tough.
yeah, I'm also kind of, or I used to be extremely sensitive. That's something that's gotten better in time. But yeah, I mean, I used to even just use experiences from like dating apps. Like even when I'm in a relationship, I'll tell somebody like, hey, I'm still gonna kind of like troll dating apps just for material.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, dating apps are ridiculous. You know, you run into some crazy fucking shit out here. I fucking screenshot some of the things like people's bios. Like my friend was showing me one that he screenshotted, and it was like this woman that was like, fucking, oh, you must have a job and like this and that. And like, just like, I don't date bums. And her profile picture, you could see she was on like the goddamn bus or something. And I was like, what the fuck?
Because I feel, are your friends?
Can I answer the first question?
No, I'm not done with you. Listen to me. Have you, like, so back for your drug days, you moved out to California. Did you get rid of all like your old school friends that used to just like back in Landover, we used to say Joan on people, Joan on each other. You used to roast each other. Did you get rid of all those friends?
I still talk to the occasional person from back home. The truth is, I'm 28. Out of my group of friends that like I grew up with, first off, I realized a long time ago, not a lot of them are real friends.
Yeah.
A lot of them, everybody had like some kind of come up. You know what I mean? Like everybody was either hanging out with you. Like I had friends when I had drugs, I had a lot of friends. And when I fucking didn't, I didn't have a lot of friends. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a personal gain. The few people that actually were somewhat friends, they're all dead, dude. Most of them are dead or in jail. You know, out of my group of people, I think there's maybe one or two that are like still alive. One of them's literally on the run right now. Like I just saw his mugshot on like
Lamb.
like a fucking wanted poster. And then the other one is like on and off, still like strung out. Wow. So it's the same, dude. I go back home and people are doing the same shit. I used to go home and I would go to my mom's apartment. Over the past 3 years, I've been there like 4 times. I go home like once a year. And every time there's this dude that lives next door that's always asking for $1. Like, hey, you got $1 or $2, you got a cigarette? And I swear to God, every fucking year he's there asking for $1 again. And I'm like, dude, like, how about inflation? Like, ask for a little more than $1 because like there is inflation. But it's like, how are you doing the same thing? And you're 60 years old. Like people, there's so much help out there for people to get better. And a lot of people don't fucking want it. And it's that kind of irritates me because I'm on this side of it and I know how much better life is. And I just don't understand why some people don't try to get it. Some people are just so content with the way that they live. And I get it because when I was in it, that's how I was. But if like 10 years of getting high and that misery was enough for me to want something different, I don't get how these people have been doing it for 50. Like my dad drank ultimately his whole life until he died. You know what I mean? So it was like, and he always said, he was like, hey, I think AA is great. I'm really like, I'm glad you go to meetings and shit. He's like, but it's not for me. You know what I mean? And he didn't get to see the other side of it. But some people fucking get it and some people don't.
Wow. Well, why I asked that question? That's interesting to me because it's like the way you're speaking about, we're talking about friends. It's like you've had 2 halves of your life. Like one of them is like your get high friends when you're all fucked up. And then the next, half, not half, but like, let's say like 1/8 of your life is like, now you got new friends that are like not high and they're not a mess and they're encouraging you to do shit.
And there's a lot of people that I grew up with that like I used to get high with and we used to like smoke weed and drink that didn't have the problems that I had, or they had like a little phase where they started to do coke and they stopped and they got a career. Like there are those people. And dude, people comment on my videos. They're like, You know what? The ones that some of them text me or message me and they're like, hey, dude, like you're killing it. Really proud of you. Like you beat the odds. It's the ones that like comment and they're like, fucking Billy Cav, fucking Strong Island representing, where I'm like, you're still a fucking loser. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
But I don't know. I used to look at LA like it was almost like impossible to like do what I'm doing. So I can't imagine like what people like. I was talking to my friends from Knoxville, Tennessee, because I lived in Knoxville for a while. My friend's out here, he's from Knoxville, and he was talking about how like he dates these like women in California who are like fucking models. You know what I mean? I was like, hey, you ever bring any of them back to fucking Tennessee? And he's like, yeah. I was like, does everybody's like head explode? Like, are they like, what the fuck? And he was like, yeah, dude, people lose their mind. You know, it's.
God damn.
Yeah.
You got a good ass story, man. I really, look, I'm a fan. I'm rooting for you pretty fucking hard.
No, I appreciate it, man. You know, the thing that I like is, of course, it's nice to hear that like people like, oh, you're funny. But early on, like I used to sit at work and work an overnight shift and I'd be like, this sucks. I hate my life. And, you brought up Theo Von. I used to sit there and listen to like Theo Von's like podcast, like highlights, and there's like 12 hours of it. And I used to sit there like pissing myself laughing. Like I want somebody to like if they're having a bad day, be able to like tune into that shit and be like, oh wow, that's, you know, brought me out of my shit for a little while.
So is the goal what's the ultimate goal? Is to be in movies? Is it to be on Saturday Night Live? What's the goal? Or do we have one?
I don't know. You know what? I'm still trying to figure everything out. I'm still trying to figure out my persona on stage. Although everybody thinks I have that figured out, where it's like, oh yeah, you're the offensive guy. And it's like, maybe I'm not going to be. Who knows?
Well, you know what? I do. Well, just in this little conversation, I feel like there is a lot more depth to you, but that is a big part of the act. If you want to call it an act, I feel like that's but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not necessarily you're like an offensive person, but it's like,
but I want it to be more than that. You know what I mean? I want it to be thought provoking. If you look at all the great comics, like they're thought provoking.
That's true. That's true.
They question authority. They question the norm and what everybody's taught. And like, yeah.
Well, I mean, just in talking to you, I mean, I feel like if you challenge yourself to do it, I feel like you can do that. I heard an interview with Trevor Noah, I think it was, and he was talking to Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle's like, there's 1,000 funny people out here, people like you, because you're interesting. And I think that's like, you know, Dave Chappelle's little commentary on like, no, you can talk about politics and then you can go be funny. And then you talk about heavy racial issues and then you can go be funny again. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can kind of weave in and out.
Dave Chappelle's a fucking genius in my mind.
Well, he's the best of the best. I'm not, you know what I mean? So it's like,
you know, people like, everybody's always just like, who's your favorite comic? And I stopped asking people who's your favorite comic and like more like who's your influences or like who do you like? Because I don't think it comes down to one thing, but everybody always separates it into two categories. And it's like, it's either George Carlin or Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
And like, that's racist right there. You know what I mean? It's just like, you got to divide it by race. Like, it shouldn't have to be like that. But in my opinion, it's Chappelle.
Yes, I'm with you.
Granted, there wouldn't be a Dave Chappelle without a Richard Pryor, but Dave Chappelle just like he smokes anything that anybody else has ever done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I find him, you know, to the point I was just making is like the thing I like about him the most is like George Floyd, for example. He had a take on that where he basically says, you know, they stepped on this dude's neck for however long it was, 9 minutes. And he's like, I was in an earthquake in Northridge for 30 seconds. And he's like, that was fucking terrifying. I can't imagine what it's like to get my neck stepped on for 9 minutes. You know what I mean? So he does stuff and puts it in a different perspective that it's like, yeah, I know getting your neck stepped on kind of shitty, but when he paints the picture, it's like, man, that really fucking sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes you think, you know, and I think that comedians now are like the closest thing to like a modern day philosopher that you're going to find.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so who do you like now that we've brought that up?
Who do I like? I tell you who I like. I used to watch a guy right after Dave Letterman when I was like 14 years old, maybe 13 years old, late at night. And his name was Tom Snyder. And he used to say like, fire up the color teenies as I fly through the air. And he was an old dude that just had conversations, and it was so not like Letterman, not like Leno, not like Conan O'Brien, who are like 8-minute snippets, and then we're gonna throw out a zinger, and then we're gonna throw out another zinger. So like in a lot of ways, that dude influenced me a lot because I was just like, it's just good to see an old guy sit down with somebody and just have an interesting conversation. And granted, his conversations were with like, I don't know, Pat Boone or like some old dudes like I didn't give a fuck about, but he had a way of speaking that made me interested in kind of hearing more. And so like, it's not really a stand-up comedian. It's like that particular dude made me go, oh shit. Because he was podcast before podcasts even happened. Yeah. It was like a dude just having a conversation, and there wasn't like all these zingers and stuff.
You're an interviewer at that point. It's like Larry King was like interviewed so many fucking people.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like Rogan. Like Rogan brings on people other than comics. And it's like, he's probably the best interviewer of our generation.
For sure.
And it's like, that's the goal. Whether you like Rogan or don't like Rogan, like as a comic or probably as anything, that's the goal, is to get on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's instant fame. It's like connections, things like that. I love the way Rogan interviews people. I'm not a huge fan of his comedy. I haven't given it enough of a chance, to be honest.
I'm the same way.
He's highly intelligent. So that's my issue with it. Like, it's the same thing with Russell Brand. Like, I love Russell Brand. He's a great actor. He's fucking hilarious. His level of spirituality and the way he talks about things is mind-boggling. But when it comes to comedy, I don't want something that I really have to like. I like shit I have to think about, but I don't like shit that I have to analyze.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, yeah, I actually don't listen. I'm a huge fan of Rogan. Let's just be very clear about that. But like, ever since like the last like couple months when I've started doing this shit, I can't even fucking listen to him, because to your point you made like an hour ago was there's not a lot of original ideas. It's like sometimes I'll be spouting off and I'm like, wait, was that my idea, or did I just totally lift that from like Rogan or like Howard Stern or like one of these guys I listen to? So I've stopped listening to all that stuff.
Who's your favorite guest that's been on Rogan, or who did you like which few people?
Oh man, that's a good fucking question. Shit, I'm trying to think. Who did Chappelle, to be honest with you. I mean, like, I know it's almost like cliche, but I heard him, like, that was the last show I stopped listening at that point.
I think I saw that one.
Yeah. I mean, like, because it's like,
he started a podcast though recently. Chappelle started a podcast.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things he talked about. And I very deliberately did not tune into that, because it's like, again, I don't want to just be stealing other people's shit. You know what I mean? I want to have my own thoughts and stuff. But yeah, I think that, and they were just, they were two of the best having a conversation. It's like Michael Jordan and LeBron playing ball together. You know what I mean? And I was just like, man, like these two are the ones doing it the most.
Did you watch the, not the first one with Alec Jones, but like the newer one?
That you mean the crazy conspiracy theory host guy?
Yeah, so it was him and Tim Dillon.
I saw that. Like, I know who Alex Jones is. I don't think I know who Tim Dillon is. I'm sure I've come across him.
Tim Dillon's a comic that's from Long Island as well, and he's like kind of like heavy set gay dude. Okay. Very clean cut, always wearing like a collared shirt. From the same town as me, actually.
What town are you from?
So okay, not the same town.
I'm saying.
I'm from Long Beach, Long Island.
Oh, it's funny. You said Long Beach, and I was like, oh, are we going to New York for this one?
Yeah, so I'm from Long Beach. He's from Island Park, I believe, which is like literally the bridge separates it, but we all went to the same high school. Like, it was one high school that we all shared. But yeah, and he's hilarious. Like, he does this bit about ice cream flavors. And he's like, what's the best ice cream flavor? And people start shouting shit out. And everything that somebody says, he's got something for. And it's so funny. He's like, somebody said something about like Ben and Jerry's. And he's like, oh, the ice cream that has like everything in it. They're like fucking peanuts and cashews and the W computer key from my keyboard. And he's like, can we have somebody who doesn't eat acid make this ice cream? Like, he's so funny with it. But he's a huge, I think he's probably going to be, they're saying he's going to be like the next Rogan when it comes to podcasting.
Sure.
But he's one of the biggest comics in the world right now.
Yeah, it's funny is like I like some stand-up comedy, but I'm not like a huge stand-up comedy guy. You know what I mean? Where some people just know all the comedians and know all the lines.
Yeah.
I'm not like I like funny people, that's for sure. I like talking to funny people, that's for sure. But I'm not like a huge fan of comedy. Like I got friends that they can rattle off any line, they know which set it came from. Like I'm just not really like that.
It was a really good episode of Rogan. It's one of my favorites. There was one that was Joey Diaz and Tom Segura.
I'll go look that up.
It's so fucking fun. I mean, Joey Diaz is fucking. Oh, did you check out that podcast I told you to?
Man, you know what? No bullshit. As I was preparing for this, I had notes. I'd written down some notes that you wrote, told me about. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't look up the podcast he told me to look up. So no, but I still have the notes and I will do it.
He's really good. So the whole thing with his podcast is it's called The Honeydew, and it's like highlighting the lowlights. So like he interviews like these comics and shit. And it's hilarious. But he had Joey Diaz on for like 6 episodes, and they went through his whole life from like growing up to now. He's got some of the craziest stories you'll ever hear. But the Rogan episode with him and Tom Segura is fucking hilarious.
One question I like to ask, because I keep on getting really good answers. What's your like, and I'm particularly curious what your answer is because you know you got a little bit of history of being fucked up half the time. So it's like, what's your most embarrassing moment that you remember?
Ooh.
Take your time.
I've got so fucking many, dude. So many. Jesus. Oh my God, I don't know. There's literally so many that like nothing comes to mind. Like I could tell you like not like recently, but like I have a really fucked up stomach and I've shit my pants on like multiple occasions. Like multiple occasions. Fucking I threw my back out during sex.
Wow.
Like
that's an old man injury.
3 days ago, and you would think it was from like putting in work, but it wasn't. It was like I threw my back out during a blowjob. And people were like, how's that even possible? It's like I tensed up so much when I actually like came that my back locked. It's like, what the fuck? I threw my back out at a comedy show about 2 months ago. And I always tell people because the comedy show's at a CrossFit gym. So I'm like, I threw my back out at a CrossFit gym because it sounds a little better.
That's way more respectable than like I was laughing.
Yeah. Oh no, I wasn't even laughing. And people are like, oh, were you like setting up the stage? And it's like, no, the stage was set. I already performed. Everything was good. They brought this fucking comic in that had no feet. Like legitimately, like fucking hip, thigh, knee, cankle, nothing, bro. Just like in a wheelchair, and we had to lift her onto the stage. Granted, she was heavy. Like like she couldn't really hit the treadmill much, but she was heavy. And then people always like, was she funny? I was like, oh, she fucking murdered. You know what I mean? Like you have to be funny at that point. And I was talking about this on the other podcast. You probably heard some of this.
I didn't have enough time to listen to as much as I wanted to. I was into it though. I don't think I heard this.
As this comic is on stage talking about she lost her feet to diabetes, I'm texting the girl that I'm seeing who is also a baker. Like she bakes wedding cakes. And I go, hey, you still got them cookies? And as this woman's talking about losing her feet to diabetes, my fat ass is like texting, hey, you still got them cookies? And she goes, I got a blowjob for you when you get home. And still my fat ass goes, ha ha, LOL. But them cookies though, with a question mark. And people are like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Yeah.
Whoa. We might have to go to Eaters Anonymous if you're turning down blowjobs for cookies.
Oh no, I got both. Don't get me wrong. Fuck, most embarrassing moment.
How about this? Let's narrow it down a little bit since there's so many. What's the most embarrassing place you've shit yourself?
There's so many. Hold on one sec.
Oh my fucking God.
Fuck. I shit myself on the way leaving a comedy show like 2 months ago.
Oh man, I thought you were going to be like, listen, I did a bunch of coke that was cut with baby laxative back when I was like 19.
Dude, my coke was fucking fresh, dude. What are you talking about? You know what's funny, dude? I realized this thing, and it's like you can't really tell that coke's cut unless you like try to like cook it in a crack or try to inject it, because that's where it separates, is when you add water to it. And when I was like 14 or 15, I was doing a lot of coke, and I was selling it to like the kids that were like 13 that wanted to try it. So, and I knew that they were only snorting it. They weren't smoking it. They weren't injecting it. So I used to fucking cut it with, I'd take a little bit of coke, and then I go to the CVS and I buy like no dose caffeine pills, and I crush them up and I mix it with the coke. Because if you snort caffeine, you're going to get just as wired thinking you're snorting coke. And then like they'd keep coming back. And by the end of the night, I'm just selling them straight caffeine pills and just like pocketing all the coke for myself. I got so many. This is so fucked up. Let me preface this with saying when I was 14, I got so many like 13-year-olds strung out on like heavy narcotics.
Are you saying that so the statute of limitations is up and like you're not?
No, I'm saying that because if I just said I got so many 13-year-olds strung out, people will be like, this guy's like 30. What's wrong with him? But no, I was only a year older. That would be like me getting somebody like 26 right now, getting them high on like coke. But no, it's fucking. One time we went to meet this kid on the boardwalk. There was like 6 of us in my house getting high. And somebody called and they were like, where I grew up, it was, have you seen The King of Staten Island yet?
Oh, with Homeboy from Saturday Night Live. Tatted
like,
guy.
You know that scene where they're all in the basement and that kid comes to the window and he's like,
Yes.
I need some Xanax. And he's like, tell your brother he's a bitch. And then they still sell him the Xanax. And it's like, that's how it was. Like we would still deal with people we didn't like. And this kid called once and he was like, I need like 5 Xanax. And I was like, fuck this. We're going to rip this kid off. And like, I couldn't find anything that looked like Xanax. So I like folded up little pieces of paper into like square little rectangles and put them in a Ziploc baggie. And I went to meet this kid on the boardwalk to sell him fake Xanax. Meanwhile, he was showing up to give me fake money and rob me for real Xanax. So it was like, oh, we're at a fucking stalemate here. And then like he fucking took off and I took off separate directions. And now he's calling me, telling me that I sold him fake shit. And I'm like, bro, you gave me a folded up piece of paper telling me it was like a $50 bill. And it's like, and then the phone call just ended with like, you know what, go fuck yourself. And then it was like, you go fuck yourself.
Wow, look at you guys. You guys had like you guys had like a duel and neither gun shot.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that's a good embarrassing moment. I was all fucking going to take this kid for a ride and then he gives me fake money. But wait, how long does it take you to realize the money's fake? Like instantly?
Well, you know what it was, dude? It was like whenever you were going to try to give somebody like fake money for something, you want to do it in a public place so they're not looking at it. So you do the handoff and they like stick it in their pocket and they're not paying attention. You're not going to be like, hey, come over my house. Let's make this transaction and I'm going to give you fake money. Because right there, they're going to look at it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's something I've never learned before in all the fucking lockup raw I've watched.
You didn't have the parents I had.
No, clearly fucking. Now my parents are fucking crazy, but your parents are next fucking level crazy. God damn. Wait, does somebody actually show you as a child how to hand off money properly? Fake money?
Yeah. Dude, my parents taught me how to sell weed when I was like 12.
Wow. Wow.
My mom and dad used to, well, my mom was very like smart with this. And she used to tell me, go to school. And what you do is in the morning on the way to school, you sell 5 20s. You have like 2 or 3 customers that want like 5, like a 20 bag each or 2. And you sell like 5 of those on the way to school and you sell 5. Keep the business small. You make $100 on the way there, $100 on the way home. Everything really cost you like 80 and you're making $120 a day. Keep it small. Nobody knows what's going on. You're 14. That's more money than you're ever going to need.
Wow. That's next level.
Then I started moving it up to Xanax and Coke and shit like that.
What's the most money you've ever like had on you from a transaction that you were like super fucking scared about?
Like fucking $2 or $3 grand, like nothing. Yeah. Like I have more money now sober than I had when I was getting low. That's a big misconception that people think. Like a lot of people early in recovery that used to deal drugs are like, why am I going to work this fucking dead end job when I used to make like this much selling drugs?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you just work through the dead end job and get your shit together, it's like, I'm more successful now than I ever was getting high or sell. Well, also it's a big deal when you're getting high and selling drugs. It's just like, well, number one, like don't get high on your own supply.
Wow. That's fucking next. That's next. I know some buddies that have like, done legitimate drugs, been in and out of rehabs, but not to the point where their parents, or at least not that I know of. I've never really asked either. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people with fucked up parents. I don't want to ask them necessarily.
I have no shame in my story. Like if I could think of the most embarrassing thing I've ever done right now, I'd have no problem saying it. I can't think of anything. Yeah. But yeah, never get high on your own supply. If you take anything from this podcast, anybody watching, never get high on your own supply, which is why I don't sell baked goods now.
Because you can't handle edibles?
No, because I eat everything inside.
I thought you were going to be like, no, because I get in my own head and I start talking to myself and shit, and then I think I want to kill myself, and then I don't know what I'm doing. These edibles are strong.
No, I don't do anything. I don't smoke pot. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any drugs. My only vice is nicotine. That's it.
Man, you just answered one of my questions. I was about to be like, are you like California sober where you kind of drink and smoke?
No.
Or are you like really fucking sober?
You know what? And here's something that like the California sober thing that fucking dipshit Lovato wanted to throw out on social media is the most dangerous thing I think that a celebrity has ever said. Sure. This woman has like 94 million followers, and a lot of people look up to her, especially in recovery. And she pretty much just gave everybody a pass that it's okay to smoke weed and drink alcohol. And the issue with that is a lot of people, when they smoke weed or drink alcohol, they run right back to heroin, or they run right back to Xanax, or right back to meth, and a lot of people overdose because of that. So you're gonna take somebody who has all these people that idolize them, that have a few months sober, tell them it's okay to smoke weed. They're gonna do that, and they're most likely, some of them, at least 10%, might end up dead, because you have a responsibility when you're in the public eye. I think, you know what I mean? Like, she's a fucking dummy for saying that.
Yeah, well, she thought she was saying the right thing. She annoys the shit out of me for way less.
She's having a fucking identity crisis right now, so don't even listen to her.
Well, I mean, she also got mad and got like an ice cream shop for putting the fat-free yogurt in the front of the ice cream shop, and she fucking blasted them on social media. It's like, dude, really? Like, you're fucking worried. You're too. She is the problem with society.
I would rather let Britney Spears babysit my fucking children than take anything that woman has to say with any validity.
Well, but to your point, she's got 90 million followers, so she's got an audience either of us we would kill for half her audience.
Yeah. Dude, hey, man, I got 426 followers, man. Don't hate on me.
God damn, look at you. You're fucking, are we talking Instagram? We talking,
Hey, I saw your Instagram, man. You're killing the game.
Look, I put out 2 memes. Let me tell you about me. Up until very recently, I mean pandemic time, when I was like, oh shit, I should do a podcast type of thing. Yeah. I had no fucking social media presence. I didn't like it. I didn't want to fucking be on it.
I didn't start fucking with social media. I used to love Facebook just to like see shit. I never promoted anything on Facebook until like 2 or 3 months ago. What I did do is, when the pandemic started, I made a Twitter, and I just started like writing. You probably haven't seen my Twitter, but I just started writing, and I don't use it that much, but I just started like writing shit that was in my head on Twitter, just like put it out there, and it tests out ideas. I'm trying to think, like I opened a Twitter, and the first thing I posted, it was literally like fucking March 16th. It was a week into the pandemic. The first post is like, the 3 easiest ways to contract the coronavirus. And it was like 3, contaminated surfaces, 2, human contact, 1, making inappropriate jokes about the virus. Because I just had this like thing. I was like, people that joke around about the virus are going to be the ones that get the fucking virus. And then it just turned into me just like trying to offend people on Twitter.
Did you get the virus?
Yeah, I did actually.
Oh man, I was gonna call you a pussy and everything because I was like, you know, you didn't even leave the house to get the virus, Billy.
I think I had it twice, dude. To be honest,
Really?
I was in New York. I flew to New York. I was on a flight the day that Kobe Bryant's helicopter crashed, which is like people were talking about like there's this fucking virus in China and like nobody had a mask on. And New York was like the worst place.
Yeah.
And I was there when that shit happened, and then I got it a few months ago. I got it in like fucking Christmas time, right before Christmas. I got it, and then I got vaccinated in January. I was like, so like first wave of vaccinations, I was like, I'm getting it, and I got it just because I didn't want to fucking hear people's shit anymore. I didn't want to wear a fucking mask. I didn't want to hear people's shit about like fucking whether you got vaccinated or you didn't. Like it's not a conversation that I wanted to get into with anybody. It's like I've heard some of the most outrageous shit. Like I had a work meeting with somebody once and they said, I'm not getting the vaccine because I heard that it's a microchip. So I'm like, okay, you're already
Gates microchip, get the fuck out of here.
We're already retarded. And then she goes, not only it's a microchip, but it's a microchip that she goes, I could be walking to the store and it stops me in my tracks and turns me around and makes me go somewhere else. And for us, like, I had to like really think for a second. I was like, what's the next thing that's going to come out of my mouth? And then it crossed my mind. I was like, this is a work meeting. I'm like, this woman works in mental health treatment as a fucking professional. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, if these are the people that are helping the people that are seeking mental health, like counseling, we're fucked. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
god damn.
Yeah, but
I can't even get my Alexa to like do the shit it's supposed to do, let alone get a microchip to turn me around as I'm walking somewhere. I don't think technology's there yet.
Technology is so fucked. I posted something on Twitter a few months ago, and it was something along the lines of like, actually, I'll just fucking pull it up because it was pretty good. It was the fact that the military can launch a Hellfire missile from a base in Nevada and absolutely demolish some goat farmer's house in the Middle East, and I can't make an uninterrupted FaceTime call when I'm walking through a parking garage is bullshit. Like, I can't even get good cell service, and you got dudes sitting in like a fucking shipping container in the desert that are blowing up something across the fucking world.
Look at your Twitter. I'm surprised I didn't come across it because I Googled you. But oh, you know, it's funny. Have you Googled yourself?
Yeah.
Do you know there's a Billy Cavanagh that's like a super hardcore Catholic that like, you know, he's one of those guys?
Have you Googled my legal name?
Oh, no. Do we get mugshots?
We get mugshots.
Oh, you IM'd me, man. I barely even know how to use Facebook. When you hit me up the other day and you were like, hey, can I just video chat with you right now? I was like, oh, man. Is this your mom too?
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, bro.
Oh, man, I got to put this in. Look at you with fucking your hair. You know, this isn't a bad mugshot pick. How old are you right here?
22 or 65. I don't know. Let the audience guess.
And this is mom? Are you judging me?
No, fucking dude. I live in the goddamn valley, so
yeah. Well, look, hey,
I live in the Jewish part of the valley, so I'm like,
isn't the valley the Jewish part of the valley?
No, the outskirts of the valley.
Oh, that's news to me.
I got to get down to Hollywood, West Hollywood. Sorry, I got an appointment at Slammers at fucking 8:30.
That's going to be how I wrap up the podcast, by the way.